How much is the food in your refrigerator worth? I'll bet if you took inventory, you'd be shocked at how much it would cost to replace it all. A gallon of milk is almost $4. Eggs are skyrocketing. Cold cuts, easily $10 a pound. Chicken breast, ground beef, $5 a pound. And then there are the vegetables. Fruits, salad dressings, butter, prepared deli foods, juices, cheese, yogurt, and more. It really adds up. And in your freezer, the math on that is almost too painful to contemplate. Think about it. When you add everything up, it could cost hundreds of dollars, maybe more. And unfortunately, the chances of a power outage taking out your entire food supply are great. Studies have found that major power outages have increased 10 times since the 1980s. An antiquated power grid is creating the conditions that make extreme weather the main culprit. And this doesn't include major events like hurricanes and tornadoes. Simple occurrences like thunderstorms, extreme heat, and wildfires can even take out your power. Not just that, even cold and icy weather can take out your power for days. Unfortunately, nobody can predict when the power is going to go out. That's why you need to be prepared for the times the power does go out. If you are prepared, you can adequately provide for yourself and your family. Why? Because even a 6-hour power outage could cause your food to spoil and force you to throw it all out. That's a lot of money you're going to throw away. And in the event you cannot get to a store to restock, you're putting yourself and your family through more than just a little inconvenience. And we're not just talking about bad weather knocking out the power grid either. Though there's no disputing weather-related outages are growing. But the truth is, now more than ever, the electrical grid is stretched beyond its capacity. That's because President Obama's radical environmental policies are actually moving us closer and closer to electrical grid failure. In fact, EPA policies are forcing the closure of many coal-fired plants, which once provided over half of America's electricity. Even last winter, the polar vortex exposed just how vulnerable our electrical grid actually is. 8 of the top 10 of America's all-time energy peaks occurred during this vortex. Only efforts by power grid operators saved large parts of the nation's heartland from blackouts during the record cold temperature days. In fact, Nicholas Akins, CEO of American Electric Power, stated in congressional testimony, "This country did not just dodge a bullet, we dodged a cannonball." Of course, most Americans aren't aware of just how fragile our power grid is. That's because most of these problems are going on behind the scenes, while we take our power grid and electricity for granted. And yet behind the scenes, power grid operators are scared to death by how ill-prepared our power grid system is for extreme temperature weather. Of course, extreme weather is just one problem. Our grid is also vulnerable to hackers, vandals, terrorists, and hostile foreign nations. Foreign and even domestic hackers try to target the American power grid infrastructure almost daily. Just last year, hackers managed to break into 37% of our energy-producing companies. Thankfully, nobody's been able to shut down any portion of the grid for very long so far, but it's in the news almost daily. They're still at it. They're trying to break in, giving them the potential to shut it all down. But it gets even worse. An EMP attack on our nation's infrastructure could create the ultimate power grid meltdown. EMP, or electromagnetic pulse, is a short burst of electromagnetic energy. Now, if it's strong enough, it can damage almost every type of electrical equipment in the nation. An EMP attack could shut down communications, banking, hospitals, and law enforcement because they all depend on the grid. In fact, one EMP Commission has estimated that within 12 months of a nationwide blackout, up to 90% of the U.S. population could perish from starvation, disease, and societal breakdown. In fact, they also report that China and Russia have considered limited nuclear attack options that, unlike their Cold War plans, actually employ EMP as the primary or sole means of attack. This isn't something out of a science fiction novel or a blockbuster movie. It's all real. Our government has known about it for decades and has chosen not to do anything about it. And it's not just other nations targeting America's power grid. You've also got lone wolf terrorists who are now able to build an EMP with parts you could buy at the hardware store. Heck, there are even YouTube videos on how to build an EMP. So it's not just a matter of if it's going to happen, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. That's why you need to be prepared to provide for your family in the event that the power does go down, which could be 6 hours from a thunderstorm to potentially days, weeks, or even longer from a greater catastrophe. Hi, I'm Bill Hyde, president of Solutions from Science, and I'm excited to introduce the Ultimate Food Protection Plan. how to keep your food from spoiling when the grid goes down. The Ultimate Food Protection Plan will ensure that the next time the power goes out, you'll know exactly what to do to keep your food from spoiling. This information-packed instructional video program gives you everything you need to know to safely rescue and preserve your perishable food. Again, it's easy to take the power grid for granted, but we forget how fragile it really is. One small failure can cascade into a widespread blackout that can last for days, weeks, even months. That's what happened in August of 2003. A tree branch fell on a transmission line. This happens all the time, and when it does, an alarm sounds. Utility workers usually solve the problem so that nobody loses their power for too long. But this time, there was a software bug. No alarm sounded. This small problem cascaded into a widespread grid failure. The Northeast blackout left almost 50 million people sitting in the dark for a full 2 days. When the power did come back, it was too little too late to save the valuable food in the refrigerator. In June of 2011, sudden severe storms tore through the middle Atlantic states. Millions were without power for as long as 5 days. Some didn't have power restored for 2 weeks. That's a lot of spoiled food and a lot of hungry families. Just 3 months later in September, a widespread outage hit Southern California. It affected over 2 million customers and lasted over 13 hours. That's 7 hours longer than the recommended food safety window. The loss of perishable food in that event was immense. Losses were estimated at $12 to $18 million. On October 29th of that year, Hurricane Sandy struck the East Coast, affecting 24 states. Manhattan, Long Island, and New Jersey were the hardest hit areas. Millions were without power for days. 3 months later, thousands were still without power on Long Island. And the food losses were staggering. Economists estimate that between $400 million to nearly $1 billion worth of food spoiled. $250 million worth of frozen food and perishable food had to be dumped in New York City alone. Worse yet, hungry citizens couldn't just run to the store to replace the food. The power was out for miles, and it took days to get the power back on and days to restock. Supplies were scarce. Fresh food was worth more than gold, if you could find it. Of course, you don't have to live in a coastal city or a tornado zone to experience a devastating power outage, as I explained earlier. A terrorist attack, an EMP, or cyber attack could happen anywhere. Now, what if something like this happened where you live? How would you provide for your family when all your food is spoiled and your local grocery stores, even if you could get to them, have been stripped bare? The truth is, even a minor power outage poses a threat to your food. 4 to 6 hours is considered a minor outage. But without electricity to your refrigerator during that time, your food is at risk of spoiling. And if you have special food restrictions because of your health or have medicines that need refrigeration, you could be in even deeper trouble. And for hunters who have a freezer full of deer meat, a heartbreaking disaster. That's why we've produced the Ultimate Food Protection Plan. How to keep your food from spoiling when the grid goes down. This new program will protect you with simple, easy steps you can take to protect yourself and provide for your family when the power goes out. The real bad news is that if the grid does go down hard, it's going to take a while to get things restored. You see, the technology involved in the utility power company equipment is so complex that repairing the grid will, in the best case scenario, take several months if a catastrophic event occurred. Large transformers are an important part of our power grid, and they're especially vulnerable to EMP. And the real issue is they're so expensive that almost no spare transformers are kept on hand anymore. They have to be ordered, like everything else, from China, and they take months, even years to get. So there's just no getting around this problem. If you grow your own food, or even if you buy food from other people, you're gonna have to learn how to preserve it without refrigeration. Every method of food preservation we show you in the Ultimate Food Protection Plan could be life-saving in an extended grid-down situation. If the unthinkable happens, if there is a large-scale, long-term grid failure, the last thing you want to do is throw away a single morsel of food. So whether it's a short-term outage or a long-term crisis, you'll want to rescue every bite of fresh food you have stored in your refrigerator or freezer. And we're going to show you how. In the Ultimate Food Protection Plan, you'll discover What foods you need to eat right away in the first 4 to 6 hours of a power outage. A special trick to keep the kids and even adults from accidentally opening the refrigerator when the power does go out. What you absolutely must do ahead of time if you anticipate a power outage. You'll learn about an innovation that has helped to prevent food spoilage in hot tropical climates without electricity. This new invention is actually thousands of years old. Since it was rediscovered about 15 years ago, it has improved life dramatically for rural tropical farmers. Vegetables typically last only a few days in hot tropical climates, but with this innovation, they stay fresh for weeks and weeks. Because the food is better preserved, there's also less risk of foodborne illness. Tropical farmers can even increase their profits too. And instead of bringing vegetables to the market every single day, they can go less often. The time they save can be used more productively, allowing them to grow even more vegetables. Where electricity is unreliable, this device is a game changer. It can even be used to store medications that must be kept cool. We'll show you step by step how to make this device using basic items you probably already have around the house. You'll also discover 2 ways to harness the power of the sun to preserve your food. One of the ways is with a solar dehydrator. There are lots of designs floating around on the internet for solar dehydrators, but frankly, most don't work the way they should. That's because many are just copies of the electrically powered designs. But an electric dehydrator used indoors works very differently from a solar dehydrator that's used outdoors. So we asked our research team for help. They came up with a do-it-yourself solar dehydrator designed to work efficiently, fast, and simple. We've made it so simple that almost anyone can build one of these. Parts are easily found at most home improvement stores. Best of all, the design is modular. You can start small and be up and running in a couple of hours. Or if you want to build a commercial-sized dehydrator, you can do it in a day. And this would give you the capacity to prepare large quantities of survival food for you and for your family. And we're going to show you how to build one step by step in this video. And as part of the Ultimate Food Protection Plan, we're going to provide you with the written plans as well. So you won't have to keep pausing and restarting the video as you put one together. If you're like most people, the most expensive food in your refrigerator and freezer is meat. The Ultimate Food Protection Plan covers this topic thoroughly, including 3 ways to save all the valuable meat in your freezer, a 17th century technique for preserving meat without refrigeration, the single best method for preserving meat in the summertime, and how to make delicious jerky without electricity. And we don't just tell you, we show you in 12 step-by-step demonstrations, including how to preserve vegetables with a 2,000-year-old secret from ancient Greece, 2 ways to keep eggs safe to eat without refrigeration for up to 6 months, a simple old-time method for preserving cheese, how to build your own root cellar in a single afternoon for less than $30, how to dry vegetables in your own driveway using a makeshift oven, how to can food over an open fire. Hey, this worked for Civil War soldiers. And much, much more. This comprehensive video covers everything you need to know, so you don't lose a single morsel of food in a power outage. You'll discover special equipment that can keep your refrigerator and freezer running indefinitely, even in a long-term outage. Which refrigerated foods are safe to eat even past the 6-hour safety window. The ancient food preservation technique that actually increases the nutrients in your food. The no BS story on raw eggs. Can you really store them without refrigeration? The techniques in this video will help you rescue the perishable food in your refrigerator and your freezer. That alone makes it worth the price. It also makes it a valuable asset. But that's not the only reason this information is so valuable. You can also use these same techniques to build up your own emergency food storage supplies. Unlike commercially bought emergency food, yours won't have preservatives and chemicals. These techniques will also enable you to buy in bulk when things are on sale and preserve them for later. And if you grow your own food, these same techniques will give you multiple options for preserving your harvest. The Ultimate Food Protection Plan isn't just for rescuing food during a power outage. It's a valuable resource you can use to become self-sufficient, no matter where you live and no matter what your situation is. In these troubled times, that's more important than ever before. No one ever knows exactly when the power is going to go off. So common sense says it's best to be prepared. We do know one thing, though. The vulnerability of the power grid cannot be overstated at this time. That's why when you order the Ultimate Food Protection Plan, we're also going to give you in PDF format a copy of Blackout, the top 11 threats to the power grid. This comprehensive, eye-opening special report will help you get up to speed on the critical issues affecting the reliability of the power grid. If you needed any motivation to become more self-sufficient, this report provides it. So why not take the next logical step and protect all that hard work, all that food? To get your copy of the Ultimate Food Protection Plan, how to keep your food from spoiling when the grid goes down, just click on the order button below. And as a special bonus, we're also going to give you an ebook. This ebook includes step-by-step instructions for building your own high-efficiency solar dehydrator. Seriously, don't wait. Changing weather conditions are putting major pressure on food prices. Floods and droughts are also affecting traditional farming methods. The nation's issues are critical. Just read the news. And as we've been discussing, all of these problems have been compounded by an increasingly vulnerable power grid, not to mention the possibility of a large-scale EMP event. And the truth is, your food security is in your hands. So don't put it off. You don't want to be left helpless when the power goes out. All your food spoiling and your family looking to you to provide for them? Every American household needs an alternative food plan in case of an emergency. So protect your family today and ensure that you'll always be able to provide for them, even when the power goes out. Click the Add to Cart button right now to order.